Living with my parents in their two-story house, overlooking the busiest part of the city, eventually became too much for me. The constant hustle and bustle, the neon lights, the cries of sirens echoing through the night. The decision to leave my parents' house was tough, but I wanted something quieter, something serene. So I started saving up every penny for a down payment on a house in the suburbs. A little slice of peace and quiet, nestled on the outskirts of the loud and chaotic city. While living with my parents, I worked, and it didn't take long for me to save up what I considered to be a decent chunk of money. I scoured real estate listings like a vulture, and there it was, a little one-story model home, sitting in a secluded subdivision. It was nestled against a dense forested wetland. It offered the seclusion I craved. I chose this house not only for its tranquility, but also for its location. Tucked away at the very back of the subdivision, on a street that had only recently been developed. Moving out of my parents' house was a whirlwind. It happened quickly, a blur of packing boxes and goodbye hugs. Before I knew it, I was standing at the threshold of my new home, anticipation and hope swirling within me. The quiet suburban life I had wanted was finally here. As days turned into weeks, I settled into the slower pace of suburban life, embracing the solitude that surrounded me. There were no more blaring sirens, no raucous city dwellers to disrupt the harmony of my days. In the stillness of everything I had wanted, I began to notice how lonely I was. I found solace in simple activities like riding my bike around the subdivision. It became a ritual, a desperate attempt to glimpse signs of life amidst the isolated streets. I would piddle for hours on my days off work, desperate for a hint of human presence. The sight of someone doing laundry, walking their dog, anything to remind me that I wasn't alone. One night, as I rode my bike, I turned down my street. I rode my bike with careless abandon, my mind lost in a sea of thoughts. And then it happened, a jolt that snapped me back to reality. My instincts kicked in, forcing me to slam on the brakes, narrowly avoiding a collision with a creature that darted out from a nearby bush. A dog, a tiny puppy, vulnerable and lost, standing in front of my bike, whining softly. I got off of my bike, my eyes locked with those of the trembling puppy. A barely audible chuckle escaped my lips as I asked the dog, half jokingly, where it had come from. Its response was a wagging tail and a shower of affection as it began to lick my hands with unrestrained joy. Kneeling there on the pavement, I chuckled at this unexpected encounter, wondering if the pup had strayed from a nearby home. It had no collar, so I made a choice to bring the pup home, if only for the night. The puppy followed me with trust, his tiny paws patting gently alongside my bike as we made our way to my house. We made it to my home, and after a bath that consisted of wiping the little pup down, I watched as he pranced around my house, quickly making himself at home. The sausages from my fridge became his feast, and the sight of him devouring them brought a smile to my face. In that moment, surrounded by the warm presence of a living being, I didn't feel quite as lonely as I had before. The evening stretched out before us, and I reveled in the newfound comfort of having this little ball of fur curled up next to me on the couch. For the first time since moving to this house, there was a sense of ease, a thread of connection that wove itself between us. The next morning, I decided I would bring him to the vet to get him checked to make sure he was healthy. I grabbed the little puppy, put him into my car, and made my way to the nearest vet's office. Inside the sterile walls of the vet's office, I explained how I had found him on the side of the road. The vet gave me a look as if she wasn't surprised by what I told her. She informed me that it was not uncommon that many people come here who find animals who were abandoned or neglected. I found myself blurting out the question before my mind could catch up with my mouth, asking if it would be all right to take him home. A gentle laugh escaped the vet's lips as she assured me that, as far as they were concerned, the dog already belonged to me. I smiled and thanked the vet. I then told her that I would go to get some supplies for the dog. I walked into the waiting room, where a bunch of pet supplies adorned the shelves. collars of every color, but one in particular spoke to me. A simple leather collar, sturdy yet gentle, seemed to suit Jack perfectly. I made my selection, along with a bag of dog food. Returning to the vet, I requested that the collar be added to Jack's file. The vet nodded. Then, with a smile, she asked me to provide a name for his file. After a brief contemplation, I settled on the name Jack. It suited him. After the vet finished examining Jack and administering his shots, they handed him back to me, along with the red collar I had chosen, a small and vibrant collar with a charming bow tie. We left the vet and returned home. During the day, Jack seemed to prefer to stay outside while I was away at work. As I approached the back door, I could always count on seeing Jack emerge from the woods. It was routine. However, 2 days ago, I arrived home to an unusual sight. Jack sat anxiously by the back door, pacing back and forth, whimpering. I turned the handle, and Jack darted inside, eagerly bypassing me and rushing down the hallway into my bedroom. Chuckling lightly at his strange behavior, I brushed it off, figuring that an animal in the woods must have scared him. I woke up the next morning at midnight. I was jolted by the sound of Jack growling, directed toward the back door. I quickly switched on the lights and made my way toward the end of the hallway. There, I saw the outline of Jack's arched back and poofy fur as he peered intently into the pitch-black woods, his growls resounding through the silence. Desperate to calm him down, I called out his name and flicked on the light switch to illuminate the backyard, assuring him that there was nothing there. I expected his gaze to shift, to acknowledge the absence of any perceived threat. However, his stare remained locked on the tree line as if he saw something, beyond the comprehension of my own sight. Eventually, he sprinted back to my bedroom, leaving me with a tinge of unease. Whatever Jack kept staring at made me feel uneasy. I decided to keep him indoors for the next few days. In the following nights, my sleep would be frequently disrupted by familiar sounds of Jack growling at the back door, his gaze fixated on something I just couldn't see. Each time, I would illuminate the surroundings, reassuring him that there was nothing to be feared, and he would swiftly retreat to my bedroom. Tonight, as the familiar growls pierced the silence, I tiredly dragged myself out of bed to pacify him, my movements guided by muscle memory. Numb to the occurrence, I made my way through the darkened hallway, rubbing my eyes as I called out to Jack. Subconsciously reaching for the switch to illuminate the backyard, my stomach dropped as I realized that the back door of my house was creaked open. Panic surged through my veins, snapping me back to reality. I suddenly heard Jack's footsteps approaching me in the darkness of the hallway. I turned to see the silhouette of Jack, his back arched and his tail bushy. But as I looked closer, I noticed something different. Jack's gaze was not fixed on the back door, as it should have been given that it was creaked open. Instead, his eyes were looking above me, toward the ceiling. A chill ran down my spine, causing my breath to catch in my throat, and my heart pounded violently in sync with the rush of adrenaline. Slowly, I raised my head, fixating my gaze upon the ceiling. I locked eyes with it, the thing that my dog had been seeing this entire time. A grotesque creature, clinging to the surface of the ceiling like an abhorrent spider. Its contorted limbs twisted in unnatural ways, its black eyes menacingly locked with mine, transfixing me in terror. The creature seemed to defy all laws of nature, and a suffocating fear gripped me. Jack's low growl escalated into a series of barks, echoing through the house. The creature, who had been fixated on me, suddenly redirected its attention towards Jack. It contorted its head to the side, as if it were studying my dog intently. In an instant, without any warning, the thing lunged toward Jack. It somehow didn't make a sound. Its elongated arms wrapped around Jack effortlessly, as if he weighed nothing at all. The creature sprinted towards the back door, still clutching Jack tightly, vanishing into the tree line of my backyard. Terrified, I ran to my neighbor's house. My pulse throbbed intensely in my ears as I begged them to call the police. A gnawing realization settled within me, though. that no matter how I tried to explain what had just happened, the authorities wouldn't be able to do a thing. The police arrived. Their presence was largely ceremonial, a mere procedural exercise. The nature of my encounter defied logical explanation. They saw the fear in my eyes, yes, but they couldn't do much except offer me empty reassurance. They came, they looked around, and they left. What else could they do? So now, here I am, back at my parents' house. I have no idea how to explain to them what happened. They wouldn't understand. They'd think I've finally lost my mind. I can't even imagine moving back out anytime soon. Maybe someday I'll find the courage to share my story with them. Until then, I'm stuck in this limbo, living in the shadow of unspeakable horror, afraid of what lies on the other side of that door. As I sit here, typing these words, a horrifying realization dawns upon me, that my beloved dog was simply prey. Each time I found my dog staring towards the backyard, I remained oblivious to the imminent danger lurking just beyond the trees. Unbeknownst to me, a predator, propelled by hunger, viewed my unsuspecting pet as an opportune meal, a chance to satiate its insatiable hunger.